Hey guys, this is just a follow-up video from the previous video on why I said dexterity is a better face tanking stat than stamina. So just like a TLDR, dexterity is a lot better because it gives you these three stats: parry, melee block, and range block. And what these do, parry completely negates damage, melee block and range block negates damage by 80%. So that's a big reduction in damage, as opposed to stamina, which effectively just grants you HP, because the defense and magic defense you get from them are basically non-existent. But in the end, the amount of HP that stamina gives you doesn't really matter when mobs are hitting you for so much damage as you level up. So as a scenario, stamina is like when you're wearing a full suit of body armor, but the thing shooting at you is a shotgun, while dex is like you're still in regular clothes, but you're getting hit by pebbles instead. So if you want to be the ideal face tank, the first thing you'll want to make sure you max is your parry and your block rate. And the thing is, there's a cap for these stats. So parry, I think the cap is around 120%, and for block, it's between 73 and 75%. But those numbers aren't accurate descriptions. So if you have a 120% parry rate, you won't 100% of the time parry all the hits you receive. And a 73 to 75% block rate isn't actually you blocking 75% of the time. So I don't know how the Flyff calculation works, how they coded this, but when you have a 75% block rate, that's actually equivalent to around 90+%. And for parry, I'm more confused by how they coded this one as well. So I think this works as like a logarithmic thing, because even when I had like a 120% parry rate, I swear I was parrying as much as I would if I had like 80% parry, right? But ideally you do want to get to the cap, because this one completely negates damage when it actually procs. But before you start assigning your stats, you first want to look at what items you're actually going to get, because the items you get are going to give certain stats, right? So I have a tank bow right now and it's giving me a 10% block rate, and my 120 set is giving 10% block rate from the set effects. And also when you upgrade, as you upgrade the levels, it's also going to give inherent block. So right now at +8 it's going to give 10% block rate. So you want to take all these into account first, like what items you're going to get. And the other thing you're going to account for are the buffs you get. So when you're an acrobat, you gain a certain buff that gives you block. This one gives a 20% block rate. So right now 62%, and then goes to 82%. And the RM also has a useful one called Cat's Reflex, and that also gives block. This one is giving me 16%. And there's another one that gives you block, which is Cannonball, because it applies dex. And with all these buffs I get a 100% block rate and more than enough parry. So when I apply all these buffs, I'm actually way overcapped for parry and block. And if you want to min-max it, you would want to modify it so you'd only get 75% block and 120% parry from all these. So the reason why you want to calculate how much block and parry you get from your items and your jewelries and your buffs first is because once you start changing your stats on the stat windows, once you apply it, you can't restat unless you spend real money on it, which is pretty stupid. You have to spend like 10 bucks just to restat this window. So unless you're like a big spender, definitely calculate how much block and parry you're going to get from your items and buffs, because at least with items you can change it without spending money, right? Alright, so even when I don't have any dexterity put on, I'm already capped at block, but my parry is still 44%. So ideally I'd want to keep adding dex until this reaches around 120. So that's around what? Yeah, that's around 155. 153 exactly. And then after this you'd want to go purely into stamina, because adding more dex won't make you any more tanky than this, right? Because this is already reaching the cap. So the only thing you'll need now is HP. So you can put the rest into HP. And that's pretty much a min-maxed character now.